Hello and welcome to our live broadcast from Munich. We are at the high-end show, the annual high-end show here in Munich. With me for this live broadcast I have Roland Hoffmann, who is a senior manager at the Dynaudio Academy. And we have Otto Jørgensen, who's a product manager at Dynaudio. Today we're going to talk a little bit about tweeters in general, but as you might have seen, we've also introduced our new anniversary loudspeaker, the Special 40. That has a pretty interesting new tweeter from us called the Esotar 40. But before we get into all of that, Roland, could you maybe talk a little bit about some of the principles behind how we have made tweeters in the past?
Yeah, it's basically we always use a soft dome tweeter. It's a coated soft dome. And there are many different tweeter principles out there in the market. But when Dynaudio started, we were looking for the right balance out of everything a tweeter should be like. So it should have a right inner damping, it should be light, it should have very fast response, but overall it has a very even frequency response. And many tweeter principles are good in one of these areas, but the coated soft dome by principle is very balanced, very good in all these areas.
Okay. Is there any particular reason for this? Or?
Yeah, if you just imagine a piece of metal which makes a metal dome, or a piece of thin plastic which makes a plastic dome, it has a resonance frequency on its own. Just by imagine a piece of thin metal, touching it, you will have some sound.
Yeah.
Imagine a piece of fabric, just like textile.
It makes no
and you
sound.
touch it, it makes no sounds. Only if you attach a voice coil and a magnet and a music signal, it reproduces sound, which by principle is the better way to start with.
Okay.
And then we improved it, well, 40 years now, so we get better and better and better in doing such great soft dome tweeters.
And I know that one of our tweeters is the Esotar Square, or Esotar 2 as it also is called, has been celebrated for a long time. Can you talk a little bit about what's special about the Esotar 2?
Basically, it's special because it's a very, very powerful neodymium magnet.
Okay.
So, and this is not about volume level or that it's louder than others, it's about control over the voice coil. The voice coil is a tiny thing and it's in the magnet gap.
Yeah.
So this is very light and it should move very accurately, very precisely. And that you can only achieve with a very strong neodymium magnet. Well, not only, but the better the magnet is, the stronger the magnet is, the better it's controlled, and it sounds better.
Okay.
And then we have many, many things. Could talk a whole day about our tweeters. It's about the coating, it's about the fabric, it's about the dome shape, basically everything. And you cannot achieve that quality level if you just buy tweeters from the supplier.
Okay.
You have to develop and continue improving.
And we've done that for 40 years now, building it in-house.
That's right.
and developing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of where we are at now with tweeters, but today we've introduced something brand new, the Special 40, with a new tweeter called the Esotar 40. And Otto, you've been involved in the development of that.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yes, what we actually did in the Esotar 40 was, if you look at an Esotar 2, which is our top of the line tweeter, compared to this tweeter, the Esotar 40, the back chamber on the Esotar 2 is actually a more advanced model. It's an aluminum back chamber. This is a plastic back chamber. So we basically started out with this, but this part is completely different.
Okay.
So we improved a lot of things about this. The yoke, which is called, where you have the airflow underneath the dome, is redesigned. So we have a better airflow from the dome backwards. I mean, what's actually important is, of course, the sound coming out of the front, but how to determine the right sound, how to get less distortion. You have to control the sound that's coming from behind the dome. So the airflow into the yoke piece is different.
But can you maybe just, for my sake, explain what you have here, because you're talking about a yoke, but is the magnet as well? Or?
Yes, of course. If you are looking at this part, is actually the neodymium magnet.
Okay.
What's interesting about this is that when you talk about neodymium tweeters from many other companies, you might have a very small neodymium because you can make neodymium very small compared to ferrite.
Okay.
So in our tweeters we have a very large neodymium magnet. So for a neodymium magnet this is extremely large, especially in a tweeter. So that's the main part of it. And then you have the yoke, which is sitting inside this magnet.
So that's this piece here?
Well, it's actually this metal piece that controls the airflow behind the dome to release it into the back chamber. So we can dampen these sounds coming from the back of the chamber to avoid them to be reflected and coming back out to the dome. That would create distortion.
Most magnets are just a magnet ring. Right here you can see it has been shaped for airflow. So that's really one advantage.
So that optimizes how the air goes through it?
Yeah. Yes.
And this is the main improvements in the Azotar 40. That's airflow that's coming behind it.
Okay.
So we have a lower resonance frequency, which again creates less distortion and makes it easier to make a blend together with the woofer.
Okay.
So you get a better sounding mid-range because of this improved airflow. And for this particular part of the sound, it's actually better than Azotar 2. It's an improved version, but then on the Azotar 2 you have a different back chamber.
Okay.
So you get something that's different. In some areas it's improved, especially in the lower frequencies.
Well, I think that we're talking about this might being a little bit better than what we have in the Azotar 2, but the back piece being better in the Azotar 2. So for many people, I guess the number one question now is, well, which is better? Can you say that one is better than the other, or are they just fundamentally different?
No, I would say they're different.
Yeah.
They have advantages in different areas.
Don't forget that the Azotar 2 belongs to a higher range from contour, especially confidence, evidence platinum. That's where the Azotar 2 is used. And so you can say some things are a bit simplified, but then you cannot stop our engineers. They came up with ideas to make some parts even better than the Azotar 2. Not overall, but in many details. And then in the end we said, it's a special 40 model, so we cannot say, don't let's make us so good. We have to improve. It's our anniversary speaker. It has to be special. So then we came up with this Azotar 40, which in some parts is better, in some the Azotar 2 is the Azotar 2.
And the thing with the Azotar 40 tweeter is that it's exclusive for this particular loudspeaker, right?
Yes.
So it's only in this one model that you can experience it.
Yeah.
So it is as special as the Special 40.
Yes.
Yes.
An anniversary tweeter.
Yes. Guys, we also have some we have a lot of questions from people, obviously. So I think that we should start to dive into some of those. Roland, you touched briefly upon there being different principles for tweeters, right? There's the dome, obviously, and then there's something called ribbons.
Yeah, a ribbon tweeter. And many people talk about ribbon tweeter, and if you look at a tweeter principle on its own, you will find, as I said, many advantages and different principles, like the ribbon tweeter. And it's very good on axis, and it has some frequency areas where it's actually quite good. But the tweeter is not a loudspeaker. The tweeter is a tweeter.
Yeah.
So first of all, it has to be good on axis and off axis. If you look at the tweeter alone, it has a very good sound radiation, a good phase response, a good step response, a good frequency response. So many things which are principally better overall in a coated soft dome. But the even more important part is there's a tweeter and a woofer, and they have to be somehow alike. They have to perform together. And a ribbon tweeter would perform perfect with a ribbon woofer. There's no such thing. So a ribbon tweeter is good on its own, but it will never really have the seamless integration to the woofer, because it radiates different, the sound dispersion is different, the on-axis, off-axis performance is completely different than any woofer. So you cannot really make a very balanced overall loudspeaker out of that.
Okay. And so with the dome tweeter, we are able to make the better integration with the woofer? That's what I'm hearing you say, right?
Yeah, especially in the Special 40, but basically in all our models. Our tweeters can reach very, very low in the frequency, right down to the mid-range.
Okay.
Our woofers they very high up into the mid-range. So the blend over, the crossover of our tweeters and our woofers are exceptionally good. Not in the Azotar 40, but in the 40 they're even one step further in this regard.
But say the Special 40 is basically a celebration of what we have been good at for 40 years, and that is specifically this
frequency
blend
overlap.
and being good in all areas, not just in single areas like high frequency response. We're not looking at good high frequency response. We're looking at the best sound overall.
Okay.
Also because our ears are not just listening in frequency response. Many people talk about the frequency response and it has to be linear. There are so many different areas where a speaker has to perform good. And that's all we can hear. So it's not something to measure right, it's something that has to sound right, and that's a different thing.
Okay. I want to move on to a question that's a bit similar. It's about trying different materials. It's something we've gotten the question before, and now it came up again with us asking for more questions. And have we ever tested anything else than let's say the textile, the dome that we're using at the moment?
Well, yes, in development, we always see lots of prototypes, and they're always measuring different stuff and simulating different products on the computer systems as well. And the basic thing is that we are looking for, like in our woofer, we're looking for a material that is stiff and light, but also well damped, so that you don't have the ringing.
Okay.
So we haven't found a material that works better than this for all these three combined, where the overall experience of it is better than with this. Again, sometimes if you measure stuff, you will find a measurement that looks like, oh, now we made the best tweeter in the world. But then you start listening to it, and you find that it doesn't actually sound right. That's actually a big part of developing these drivers and loudspeakers, that you can't measure everything. We have to really listen to it. And in the end, we haven't found a better solution yet, so that's what we're sticking with.
Yeah. It's also interesting when we often get new engineers fresh from university, and of course they have the same question, and they have other ideas. So we also have to prove that this is the right way to go. So we have to improve as well to make it better, to constantly make it better. And so I think it's safe to say we convinced a handful of engineers who thought, no, I know fancy material, and then in the end they admitted, actually what you do in the ESOTAR 2 and in the ESOTAR 40,
it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess this might be a bit off base, but with the new research and development center, obviously we're able to measure a lot, but I know that we are very keen on also listening to it and spending time combining the two aspects, right?
I mean, in the new measurement chamber, we can make a full measurement of a loudspeaker in like 20 minutes, which took days before. Yeah. So it's very easy to make some really nice measurements very quickly. But actually, the listening part, it takes a lot longer time. We're spending days, weeks for listening for the same changes, where we just spend 20 minutes measuring the change, but we can't just listen to it in 20 minutes and make decisions. So it still takes a lot of time to find just these things. It helps to have the measurement, you have to listen.
And I guess that in the end, it's all about, it's real people with real ears that sit there and listen to the product, so it has to sound great there and not necessarily just in a measurement chamber.
And the capability to produce our own tweeters. So all the measurement and all the listening would be worth nothing if we then have to find the right tweeter in the catalog. But with this knowledge, we can go into our R&D and into our production and do prototypes, build prototypes, test out, and then in the end, make a better tweeter. So it's not just about R&D and listening. In the end, we do our own tweeters, and then when it all comes together, and that's why our tweeters are so good.
Great. I want to move on to the final question that I have on in my little book here, and we have the newer LYD monitors, right? And someone asked, well, what's the difference, or how does a LYD tweeter compare with the ESOTAR tweeters?
Basically, the overall concept is the same. We are not changing the concept just because it's an active speaker. Okay. So the ESOTAR is a higher range of drivers. We don't use a neodymium magnet in the LYD tweeters. Part of that is because you don't really need the high sensitivity for an active system. But that's not really, I believe the question was also, how does it relate to home speakers? So is there a difference between LYD, which is a pro speaker, compared to our home speaker? That's not really a difference there. Okay. The job of the tweeter is exactly the same, whether or not it's in an active speaker or if it's in a pro speaker. The final tuning of the speaker can be somewhat different, but the actual driver is basically the same technology. So in our Pro lineup, we have some models that use lower ranges of tweeters, and some models that use the higher ranges. So we also have Pro monitors that use Isotar 2, and in that case, there's no difference at all between an Isotar 2 in a Contour and an Isotar 2 in an M3 Pro monitor and M5.
It's the same way of developing and the same thing that
from a tweeter point of view, it's exactly the same.
Okay.
Also because all the things that a coated soft dome does well in a home, in a listening room, in a living room, it also counts in the studio.
Yeah.
You have to, people in the studio, they have to listen for hours and hours and hours. It's their work. But basically also someone at home likes to listen for hours to the favorite music. So everything like a very balanced frequency response, a very balanced sound radiation into the room is as important in the living room as is in the studio.
Okay. So it's basically, or not basically, that's maybe
But
putting it too strong, but it's similar.
And having said that, we have, it sounds like now we have only a few tweeters, so some for Pro and some for home, and sometimes the same. Actually, we have over, how many different tweeters we have? Over 20 different tweeters, not counting all the ones we did in the past. So a lot of different tweeters. We can basically change so many things, like the length of the voice coil, the size of the magnet, the shape of the magnet. It's neodymium or ferrite or ferrite plus. Many things we can change, and we do so from model to model.
And it depends on what our goal is.
Depends on what we need for this specific speaker.
Okay.
So yes, there's a difference between the models, but that difference is not based on whether or not it's a Pro model. Sometimes if you have a near-field monitor like the LYD is designed for, there are things that you don't have to take into account. You don't need as much output in a near-field monitor because you're sitting close to the speaker, so ultimate SPL sound pressure is not really as important as if you're making a big three-way home speaker that's designed to go into big living rooms where you're sitting far away from the speaker. Your compromises might be different, but the basic technology is exactly the same.
Okay. Guys, I can see that the time is running out. So I think that there's only one thing left to say, and that's thanks for joining us for this live session. It was a pleasure having you on here. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And thank all of you for asking fantastic questions.
Thanks for watching.